Hi everybody, meteorologist Joe Cioffi here on this Wednesday night, and we are looking at Hurricane Ophelia as an eye has formed. It actually formed earlier today, then kind of slowed down, kind of filled a little bit, and now the eye has reappeared. So the system has been organizing. It's the 10th consecutive hurricane of this season, which ties a record going back to 1893. So we're talking about 124 years since we've put it together a string of 10 consecutive hurricanes, and this is added to what has been an absolutely remarkable season here. It's also, of course, the 10th. It is also the 10th hurricane of the season. It just happened that we didn't have anything before through the first 6, but just amazing that we've seen this activity the way it has been. And the Hurricane Ophelia probably could strengthen a little bit more between now and tomorrow night or early on Friday before conditions start to change and we begin to see this perhaps start a transition over to an extratropical system. The other remarkable thing about it is, though it's not that unusual, it does happen from time to time, but this is going to be riding northeastward and then northward on up in through the eastern Atlantic and off the coast of Western Europe and on its way to perhaps Ireland and England on Monday, which is just, you know, you might as well, considering the kind of year we had, is it really that big a surprise that we're going to wind up with a tropical system that's going to perhaps head up toward Ireland and England? By that time, it'll probably be extratropical. But what I'm showing you here is the upper air scenario that is setting up for all this. And there is a ridge in much of Western Europe. You've got troughing out in the Atlantic. There's looks like an upper low that's sitting north and well north and west of Scotland and Ireland. Now, what's going to happen is, as we roll this along on the jet stream, the ridge in Western Europe is going to build, and you're going to see, if you look at the upper left-hand corner, there's a deep upper low there that's sitting near Iceland, a deep Atlantic low, and that's going to create a trough along the west coast of Europe. Now, as we come into this time frame, as we head into Saturday night, in the lower left corner, you can see that tight little circle there. That is the representation of Ophelia. And what's happening is the trough in the Atlantic south of Iceland is deepening, so that's going to pick up Ophelia and lift it up northeastward and then eventually turn it northward. And on this particular run, it was a shade further to the east from its prior run, so the actual center of this system, which I think at this point may wind up being extratropical, passes just to the east, just to the west of Ireland. I have to remember now, everything is reverse with regards to this, with regards to position. I'm so used to referencing the United States, I'm just kind of getting everything a little bit backwards. Trying to load here the surface map for you and take you along on that, and you'll see it on the surface map what happens. The Ophelia makes its appearance there. Now we're into the early morning hours of Sunday. Still very much a strong system. I think at this point it's probably become extratropical. You can see it's sort of expanding a bit in terms of its size, and the green area indicating how the rain sets up, looking more, certainly looks like an extratropical cyclone, albeit a strong one, at the point that it makes its closest approach to Ireland. Now, the European and the GFS from earlier were further to the right or further east, bringing it directly over Ireland. So, you know, we're going to see the models kind of vacillate back and forth on this. I'll put up the North Atlantic view so you can see at least how the upper air is working. On the wider view, it looks, you can look further west. So we'll just give it a minute to load here, and let me just bring that map up for you. There we go. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so let's pull up the upper air. Now, here on the right side, you can see Spain. You can see this upper low that's sitting off the coast of Spain. That's the representation of Ophelia in time. So I'll just roll it back to the current time. Ophelia sits there for another 24 hours. Now look at the action up in the North Atlantic. As you have this very intense. There's Greenland. That's right near the top, near the middle of the picture. That one upper low lifts out, and then another deep trough running from just south of Greenland down into the Atlantic picks up Ophelia and then lifts it up to the northeast. And that is really what's driving all this. There's actually even another trough behind it that kicks it northeastward like a football, and then Ophelia lifts up and around all of this. This makes total sense given what's going on in the upper air, both in the Atlantic and back across North America. Everything is connected, so if you watch the weather patterns, you watch the short waves and that are moving across the eastern part of Canada, there's a big ridge that builds there, a deep trough out in the Atlantic. Part of it lifts out, and then another part of it takes Ophelia and lifts it up. It's getting kicked along by another shortwave trough that's coming into the northeast as we move into early next week. So all of this is going to make for very interesting weather watching going forward for sure. Now, as terms of weather in the United States is concerned, let's take a look. You know, it's still relatively uneventful. There really isn't that much going on when we look at what's going. You know, when we take a look at the pattern overall. So here's a picture. I'm sorry. Let me just roll this back. I'm trying to do 10 things at once, folks. Sometimes that's not a good idea, particularly at this time of night after a long day's work. So here in the east, we've got this big high that's building in southeastern Canada. Drier air that's coming down the coast will push that rain out tomorrow across much of southern New England down into northern New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania. It's a weak system. It's also going to be transitioning over to a warmer air mass over the weekend as we get another ridge that builds along the east coast, although this time it's going to be brief. The next cold front with the next shortwave trough coming through southeastern Canada, that brings a cold front through here Sunday night into Monday, and we actually get a fairly decent shot of cool air for the first couple of days of next week. Out in the west, we have the next weather system, the next important weather system, and this is to deal with the wildfires that have been going on in Northern California. We've been saying for the last few days that it'll probably be the middle to latter part of next week before any substantial rains come in, and indeed it's during the day on Wednesday into Wednesday night into Thursday that we get a fairly potent storm moving into the Pacific Northwest that's going to bring some rain into Northern California. Not much, but at least it's something. And you know, after that, it's hard to say how we're going to play this all out with the models. They seem to want to bring weather fronts through every couple of days. Of course, there has to be the magical tropical system that pops up on this particular run, but we're now toward the end of the month, and I still don't see, you know, the weather pattern to me does not look overly exciting going forward from the standpoint of active weather, if that's what you want. It just doesn't seem to be playing out that way. Here's a quick look at what's going on across the Northeast at the moment. We do have some rain happening tonight. Not a whole lot, but at least there's some. It's a little heavier across interior New York State, where there have been some heavier downpours there. But the southern end of this, we've just gotten a couple of bands of rain and not much more. When we look at it from the perspective of the satellite view here of the northeastern satellite, I'll bring that up and take it wide here. And a lot of clouds in the northeast, back over into the Ohio Valley. There just isn't anything, you know, these are just weak systems that are coming through. The overall look across much of the United States right now is pretty benign. We don't have any major storms, or not even minor storms at that. It's just these weak weather systems that are coming through. every from time to time, at least getting a little bit of rain out of this, but it isn't very much, and that's really about it. So the big story, from the standpoint of the tropics, or at least in terms of meteorological interest, is going to be Ophelia, as it eventually finds its way up northeastward and then northward off the west coast of Europe, and perhaps heading into Ireland and into England. All right, folks, let me run back, and we'll go look at some of your comments, and glad everybody is here tonight. Earl Warren, the 10th hurricane of the 2017 season, yes, and the 10th consecutive one at that. Will we ever get fall weather? It can't be warm forever. We're due to get cold sometime. We are past due for cold weather. Weather and low 78 next week. I think we'll see some cooler weather. Certainly back down closer to average for this time of year. Nothing especially cool, but cool enough. At least bring temperatures back down to near normal. Of course, let me just give a collective hi to everybody. Zachary, Wayne, Mirtha, good to see you here. Leon, Jason, hi. Hope everybody had a great day. Southside Boxing, what are we looking at in the UK and Europe? I've got a son out there. Thanks, mate, doing a great job. Oh, thank you for being here. When this gets up to that latitude, it's going to behave like a strong North Atlantic type storm. I don't know that you would notice too much of a difference between that and something that they get in the wintertime. That being said, though, with a track that close, if it comes close to or over Ireland, there certainly could be some strong winds and heavy rain. So I think we'll try to zero in on the exact track over the next couple of days and figure out exactly what's going to happen here early next week. This would be for Sunday night. I think Sunday night, well, our time will be respect for Sunday night, so it'll probably be later Sunday night into Monday for England and Ireland, unless it suddenly shifts even further to the west. But this is unusual, but not unheard of. It does happen from time to time. So why is this going to be so potent? Well, Jason Schaefer, that's a good question. And someone, and I'll get to it. Someone asked about extratropical. When the storm makes its transition to a post-tropical or extratropical storm. In other words, it goes from being a warm core tropical system to a cold core system, which is a cold core system is what you see in the fall and winter time. It starts to behave in that fashion. The rain shifts to the north and west of the center. There really isn't too much happening east and south of the center. It develops what we call a warm sector, where warm air comes up on the east side, and you've got the colder air on the northwest side. This is what's going to happen as this system starts to gain latitude and move north of 40 degrees north. What makes it a little different is the fact that it's going to be reacting to energy in the upper atmosphere and behave much like a winter storm, where it starts out perhaps as a seedling low and then eventually intensifies as the pressure drops in it. This one's going to will already have the low pressure, and it'll maintain that, or perhaps even get a little bit stronger as it moves further north. Some of the models do bring the pressures down into the low 960s and 960 millibars, which would be, say, the equivalent of a strong Category 2 hurricane, but the wind field will spread out. There'll be a larger area of gales, and there won't be that tight concentration of very, very strong winds. It'll just be much like a winter-type cyclone. And I am also tired of the high humidity. I agree. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Ed Fines. Appreciate you being here. Patricia, I'm so tired I can't even retry your last name again, and I know I almost got it right. I'm sorry, Patricia. Let me try. Janus Skywitz, hopefully. Fingers crossed. You have a soothing voice even when talking about a Cat 5 hurricane. Thank you. I'm trying. I'm a little bit tired tonight. Just a lot going on. I was a little bit late with the live stream today because I had a few other things that I had to do. So I'm a little bit flustered at the moment. But I wanted to get this done because of the fact that we do have this system going to Europe. I mean, it's so funny considering the kind of hurricane season we've had with the Category 5 hurricanes, the major hurricanes, the landfalling ones, and everything else. It would only seem it would just make total sense that we would wind up seeing something heading over to England and Ireland out of this. And you know what? If it winds up holding on to its tropical characteristics longer, I would not be at all shocked. Now, Sean, I hope I answered your question exactly about classification of a system as being extratropical. Warm core systems are intense from the bottom of the atmosphere and less intense as you go up. And cold core systems are the reverse. They are more intense as you go into the upper layers of the atmosphere and less intense as you come down near the surface. And the warm core systems like hurricanes, winds, strongest winds tightly clustered near the circulation center. A cold core system, much more spread out. You don't have a tight belt of winds. You have a larger area of gales, but you don't have that like concentration of 75-mile-an-hour winds near a circulation center. Saving on oil, Patricia Owens, that's correct. Although using it with the electricity, with air conditioning, I got my electric bill today for August and September, and it was not pretty. All right, so let's see. Aaron Yonkers, how fast do I think the winds in Buffalo on the weekend with the cold front? I will do this for you. I'll give you a quick look. Hang on. I'm not going to bring the map up because it'll just take too long. Of course, now that I said that, the internet is slowing down on me. Okay, so you want to know about the winds in Buffalo. So I'm not sure you want to know that because you're trying to bet the Buffalo Bills or not, but I won't ask. Okay. So I might get, you know what, Sunday it might get a little breezy out your way. Let me just see if I can pull up the 10-meter wind. Yeah, it might get breezy, especially near the lakefront. I wouldn't be surprised. Get a little windy. Actually, winds may get pretty strong over Lake Ontario Sunday night into Monday. But yeah, I think you might see some gusty winds if you're along the lakefront. Maybe less so as you go further inland. It'll probably be breezy, but I don't think it'll be especially windy. Okay, let me just see if there's any more questions. Raymond, 2015 has been really weird in the temperature department for the United States. Yeah, considering the kind of summer we had, I think that's a pretty good observation. Zachary, 2017 is the most consecutive hurricanes, as you don't know if there was a tropical storm in the middle of the Atlantic in 1893. Well, I think the thing that stands out about 1893, if Anthony Orr is on, he may have mentioned this to me, that might have been the year where there were 15 landfalling hurricanes. So it's quite possible it's certainly possible that there was more than 10 in that streak, but we know of the 10 that are there, so it does tie that record. And Zachary, there were a number of there were records of storms in 1893, so they know for sure that there were 10 consecutive hurricanes there. Okay, and again, it's quite possible that they might have missed one or two in that mix, so maybe that number was higher. All right, so 2017 ties it. I don't think we can. I don't think we can take away from what happened in 1893. Because we do have the record of the 10. I'm just kind of scrolling back to make sure I got everybody here, and I think I did. So if I don't think I missed anybody's question, which is great. Okay, so with just like I said, it's been a very long day. All right, folks, let's call it a night. We're going to see what happens with this tomorrow. I'll keep you updated on the website, meteorologistjoecioffi.com, and we will also take a look at what's going on in New York City weather-wise, you can check Angry Ben's posts on nycweathernow.com. And thank you for those of you who are new subscribers. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We try to do this once a night. When weather is active, we try to do it maybe twice during the day. Right now, things are pretty calm, but we'll be watching what goes on with Ophelia, of course, as we head toward the weekend. And thankfully, we are almost there because it is Wednesday, so we've got 2 more days to go. All right, folks, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow, and enjoy your Thursday.